Good morning, everybody. I've settled down from yesterday. Welcome back. It's following the video yesterday, and anybody that thought I said I wasn't alcoholic, it was an orchidholic. No, what I am is, you caught me yesterday after the 2:30 in the afternoon espresso and 2 pieces of chocolate, and that's all I needed. So there's always stories to tell. And also, the Skype was ringing away. It was my brother. Can you believe it? He got bit by 2 bees. So he Skyped my mom, and she says, "Whoa, you don't look too good." So he hung up and phoned his doctor. So no sign of any noise from him, but oh boy. At least it was on the arm and the leg, but it was already swelling up. So yeah, it runs in the family. So that was that little bit of noise. And right now, this is the orchid I saved. It has, I'll come and do a close-up because I want to make sure we see a few things. So it has one flower kind of floppy. There it is. There it is. One flower kind of floppy. And so, it's been sitting in the store a while. I'm not sure how long it'll last, but I'll treat it with care. And some of the leaves are already showing signs of something wrong in the pot, which we're not surprised. So when I said I smelled something, it was the moss inside the pot, not the orchid. And it definitely smelled of not a good smell. I have not pre-soaked this. It's just been sitting in this pot that I already had, because I pull it out of the pot it comes in right away when I know there's a problem. So now we can really see how this looks, and I'll show you a close-up. So here we are. There's definite signs of some root problems in here. And the white ones are okay. It's quite normal for the ones that don't get light to be white, but I usually take and leave the core of the root and take off the outer membrane and just pull it off. I used to snip it, but that seems to be my best method. So what else is in here? I see some, some old dead roots. So if you can see that. So I'm going to go back over here because I planned on not getting the floor dirty today. And what I'll do is just let it fall in this, because I got most of it out yesterday. And you don't want to leave any of this behind. So just pick out as much as you can and give it a good rinse. There's even some on the top that are bad. But when you're taking an orchid that's been in the store too long, this is to be expected. So these dead ones, here's another one, rotten, winding around. They're coming off, and it's still quite dense right inside. I know we all do this so many times. Now, this is one thing I will not ever change. When I get my orchid home, unless it's in bark, this will happen right as soon as possible. So yesterday you saw me drop pot it, and today we'll pot it properly. And we'll make sure there's nothing of this left at all in here, because it's old, it's acidic, it smells, has a moldy smell, and it's not healthy. So we're going to baby it, and we're going to hope to save it, because there is some there is some nasty things that have to come off. So there. Oh dear. That one smelled definitely not a good sign. So what will happen is we'll put it in the bark, and the bark's been soaked. I always I brought my pot home. That's what I wanted to tell you. I brought my pot home, orchid home. I drop potted it. Then I went out after the video and I filled up a container with bark to soak. And I soaked a few bricks too for the bottom, for weight and for that little bit of added humidity, because as the bark, when it's new, the water runs off it quicker. When it starts to absorb, then you got more humidity staying in the pot longer. And also what you have is the little bugs or whatever they are that eat up the micronutrients, feed off the bark. They also use a lot of nitrogen from. So what you want to do, that's one reason when you are in bark, when you fertilize, it's important to be replacing nitrogen. And when they're not in bloom, always I use a higher number of nitrogen, not just 20-20-20 or 10-10-10. I usually use a higher number because they are in bark. So that helps replace what the microorganisms are, whatever they're called, that are breaking down the bark. You know, and I use fairly good sized chunks of bark on my plants this size. And they last. I figure I should get, well, I'd like to get like 4 years out. But I keep my eye on them. And when I see, like I have a sort of project when Jimmy's done and everything. There's another really bad one. I'm going to go through all my small pots, empty them out, and that's the best way to tell. If you're wondering how your pot is, how the roots are doing, then empty it out and have a good look at the roots. And then because it's bark, it's very easy to put it back in. It's not shocking the plant like you're changing media. I was reading some quite detailed books on, they tried every media. And it doesn't matter when you're making a change to a different media, no matter what it is, it's still a shock to the plant. And it takes a while for them to adjust. And lots of times when I go back, maybe 2 months later, because I like to check, you'll see some roots have dried out. Now those could be ones that were just not really doing anything in there because of the state of the pot. There's one that's a little black. Take that off. Yes, definitely. This orchid might show a little more shock. Take that off too, because when you like what you want, if you're starting out, don't take a Save You orchid. Go get yourself a nice orchid so that you don't have to worry about the shock and the damage that was done before you got it. Because some of these roots, they're not gonna, when you go back a couple months later, you're gonna find, oh, look at these roots have all died. Well, that was something that was happening, but what you look for is those nice new ones that are coming. And that's what you look for. Yes, there's a sign of something really good happening. I think I got the worst off. I pulled a couple green ones because I didn't like the look of the top part. It's just black in there. So I'm just going to rinse it out. Make sure I get all the moss out of all those corners. Once I left a tiny little bit of bark in a little crotch up near the top of where the roots are coming out. And just a tiny little piece, and I could already see it was getting kind of soggy in there. So I try to make sure that I'm getting it all. And it's not that easy. There's a lot of roots here, but I did like that it had some aerial roots. And a nice amount of flowers. I think I almost need something pointed. Let's put that in there for a minute. Anyway, I love it. I love, the first thing I like to do in the morning is just look and see how they're all doing. So I'm being a little picky here and making sure I've got from all the little crevices. I'm not leaving something in there. Okay. Yes, and here's the other thing. There are people that grow beautiful orchids in waterculture, and they're good at it. Now, I don't think it's anything a beginner is going to want to attempt. And it's not something I'm going to change and do because I like, generally speaking, how things are going. But being in waterculture is not like being in compact moss. You cannot compare the two. Maybe it's water saturated, but what also happens is you always see on the outside of your pot, the roots are green on the outside. You think, yes. But those are the ones that are getting the light and the water's going down the outside. But in this very center where it's compacted, that is where your trouble is. So I think I've got it pretty good. And we'll pot it up. So I soaked a few pieces of bark, a couple bigger ones. And the reason I'm doing that is because I think at first, even though brick, when your pot is made of this material, it wicks dry quite quickly. But when it's inside the pot, it's not getting the air so quick. The humidity will rise, and this is what I'm hoping for my small pots. So I put some soaked bricks in there. And then when I soak my pot, the bricks will stay wet longer, and when the bark is drying, which is okay, quite often you can read that it's better they don't get overwatered when you've just repotted them because you think your bark is dry, because a lot of these roots will heal. Some of them may dry up, but we don't want them to rot, that is for sure. So now I'm going to put some of the soaked bark in the bottom, just a little, it's probably enough. And see these funny looking things? You know the holes in bricks? This is the little mortar pieces that were in the holes. And Jack banged them out. We also crunched some that I can sprinkle on the top, and that's what I did with my slipper orchids, and they seem to love it. And also your Phalaenopsis likes some calcium, and this is what I'm going to be sprinkling on the top from now on. So we're going to put one or two of those in here. There we go. I got 3 of the little holes. Okay, now we'll see how it's going to fit. And I like them to sit a little higher in the pot because I don't mind roots coming out. Now we have anything that was outside the pot. It's kind of like what do they say? What happens in the man's shop stays in the man's shop. What happens in the pot, it stays. So if you have some that are aerial roots, they stay aerial roots. And I do have a couple nice ones. So there's one I don't like. I know it's hard to tell, but like I say, they should dry and heal up a bit. And then later, when you do a 2-month pot check, you can remove the real dry ones that dry. But what you want now is growth. So I'm just shoving those hairs in. And I'm going to put some bark all around. And the floppy flower, I will trim it off. So, because I've always found the less you have to bother your roots, the less trouble you have with losing flowers. Now, I took quite a few roots off, and they were really compacted for probably as long as since they arrived in the store. So these I kind of use my finger and wiggle them down into the holes. Now they get light through these holes. These holes are a little smaller, but some of my pots have quite big holes, and they get light through those holes, and they get air through those holes, which is very good. So we'll keep track and we'll see just how this orchid does flower-wise. Now I put it in about the same pot. I was running out of pots, and I sort of, sometime in the winter I have a beautiful glass pot. And I thought it would be nice to kind of do a glass pot and watch the roots growing in there, how they are done. And of course, we're both so busy right now, and it would mean drilling holes. And whether a glass pot will survive a minimum of like 6 holes. So that'll be a fun project, and it may not work, but it's some curious, and of course it'll mean a new orchid, so that's always nice. So it's pretty firmly packed, and that was just a quick little video to show you that I was doing that, and I will heat up my scissors and take that floppy flower off, but it's still very beautiful. And thanks for joining me. I'm probably going to clean up here and work on Jimmy because it's getting very hot, and the patio has always got a nice breeze blowing right through, so I'll be just relaxing out there with the new guy in town. Okay, thanks for joining me, and I'll get back to you when I have something really interesting to say. Bye.